Hi, this is Peggy van de Plage. Great to see you for this new video series. So today we have a wonderful guest, which is also a great friend of mine, Rick Davidson. Hi, Rick. How are you?
Peggy, good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for being here. So Rick is also one of the very successful people who are going to share their insights on their career. So today is a senior exec at CGI. He was a tech entrepreneur. He was also a banker in his past life. So thank you for being with us and sharing your career insights. So
Oh, happy to be here. Happy to be here.
let's get started. Okay, so tell us more about your career, but also if you can weave your personal story in that, because I think it's very specific to you what you've done with your career based on your personal circumstances. So that would be great to hear.
Okay, so Rick Davidson. I've been in the IT space mostly here in Toronto for 20 plus years. And pretty early on got into leadership positions and just really enjoyed it. And as you said, was in banking and worked for an Australian company and then had my own company. And then and now I'm here at CGI. And I think, what's the common thread between the different companies and the different roles is I just try to have a good time and make sure the people around me have a good time and be good to each other. I know it sounds a bit hokey, but it's 100% true, and I think that stems from my mom has been a very strong influence in my life. And if she watches this, she'll be very pleased that I said that. So hi, Mom. That whole do unto others type thing and try to make the experience good for everybody. It's not always possible, but I think mostly it actually is. And when you actually just sit down and try to understand why you're both in the room and why you're both having the conversation. And if you can find a way to make it work for both of you, I think that just transcends to greater things for everybody. And it's definitely helped me in my career. I think that's a big part of it. I think if I look at the other side, my dad's side, it's, the masculine, feminine, masculine side. My dad's a really smart, logical person. And he instilled in the three of us, me, my brother, and my sister, very early on that, you have to work hard, get up early, work hard, get your chores done. And the funny thing was the way I'm wired, you asked, what's maybe individual about you or why did it work for you the way you operate? I was the type of kid, I woke up first thing in the morning, my eyes popped wide open and I just started running. It's kind of like Forrest Gump. There's that line in Forrest Gump that he just started running and he never stopped. And, this was long before Forrest Gump, the book or the movie came out, but that really resonated with me when I read it because it reminded me of me. I mean, I woke up and I jumped out of bed and I grabbed my brother out of his bed and we would just run all day long. My dad would get so frustrated and he said, slow down. And I think, honestly, that's actually probably the best advice throughout my whole life that I've tried to heed, but haven't always been successful, which is actually to slow down, be a little bit more patient. But that energy, I guess, that energy that I have just has, transcended through the way I work. I still pop up in the morning, get up, some days go to the gym, some days do yoga, some days go straight to the office and try to get as much work done as I can get early on, which leaves the majority of the day to have meetings and interactions with people and do some strategy sessions and, get the stuff you have to do out of the way. Is just the way I like to operate. And then it frees up your time to, do the more fun, creative, strategic things. Now, I didn't start that way. I would jump out of bed. And if we had to do chores or whatever we had to do, I would try to get them done as fast as possible. And I'd literally be running between getting them done only then because I knew that then there's more playtime, So I think the motivating factor in my life since I was a kid has honestly been get the stuff out of the way that you have to get out of the way that you potentially don't like to do. And so you have more time for the things that you really like to do. And I guess that's kind of a bit about me there.
Yeah. I have a question for you, and that's because I know you. I think your dad is in tech as well, huh? And
yes, he is. That's right. Yeah, he's in tech too.
Your brother,
and my brother too. Yeah.
So, do you think that has played a role in you ended up, doing tech versus doing, I don't know, medicine, law, or something else?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, medicine or law was definitely not in the cards for me because I decided not to study as hard as I should have in university. So, that wasn't going to be, although I did actually want to be a lawyer at one point in time. But it's funny, tech, my dad was in tech, and the last thing in the world that I wanted to get into at first, honestly, was tech. My dad was in it. From my understanding of it, it was just, a bit, I thought it was boring when I was a teenager, but I knew nothing about it, to be honest. But then it turned out in school, when we started doing computer courses, and my dad brought a first AT home computer from IBM home. He was very proud of it. We started doing some programming a bit at home, and I really enjoyed the logical aspects of it, but I'd never wanted to be in computers. And then my first summer job, he helped me get it, introduced me to somebody, and I actually liked it, So there you go. The things that you think you don't want, sometimes you do. So yeah, I think that absolutely played a role. I think, it's funny though, my first major mentor, or actually my second major mentor at work, Frank, said to me, Rick, the reason I think you've been successful in these roles, and I was getting promoted throughout my career at Scotiabank, mostly underneath Frank, was because you're not the typical IT person. That was his perspective. And I would say, well, why? And he said, well, you always go with the people side first rather than the technology side. And find a way, these are his words, but I think there's probably some truth there. I would work through the people side to understand the business and people problem, and then work with the people who are better at the technology than I was to solve the problem at the end of the day. And I think there's some truth to that for sure. And I try to do that in this job, in my last job, and whatever my next job is going to be, whether it's here or somewhere else, is the people side of it first. And that comes from my mom's side, which is the funny thing. My mom has fantastic EQ. She's a wonderful woman. She wants to know everything about everyone. And I think I learned a lot from her, whereas my dad was more of the logical person. And I always, at that time in my life, and maybe still, thought that was the more fun side, the people side, the relationship side, the complexities of all of that. Anyway, so good question. And I think you're bang on, but it was both of them, I think, not just my dad.
Well, that's a good combo, mom EQ.
Yeah, it was.
And that rational. What I'd love to know is, what did you take in your career in terms of action that you think really brought you to the next level? And we discussed, because we know each other so well. I know some of them, but I think that would be great to share with the audience.
For sure. The most poignant moment, for sure, that from my perspective, is I had a boss named Peter. He was my boss's boss. And I was a newly promoted director again at Scotiabank. And I've always been an early guy. I talked about that earlier, pop out of bed, get to work. And he was an early guy, or still is an early guy. And he walked by my office very early in the morning, and he saw me sitting in there. And I'll make this brief. And he just walked in. I didn't even really know him. I'd only met him once, and he's my boss's boss. He was the senior vice president. And he just sat down at the little table in my office. And I said, "Can I help you, Peter?" He said, "No, I just want to hang out and listen." And I happened to be on a call for a major production issue that I was leading. And anyway, I don't recall when he left. That it was pretty intense conversation. I was kind of up at the whiteboard on speakerphone talking about some of the things that needed to get done, step in the project, and etc. And then about a week later, my boss, the vice president, came up to me and he said, "What did you say to Peter?" And I said, "I never said anything to Peter. He just walked in my office that day." And he goes, "Well, he wants to put you on this high-end leadership training. He wants to give you some more money, and he wants to do some communication coaching and get you a mentor." I said, "Well, great." So I guess for whatever I did in that room, talking to him, he thought maybe this guy knows what he's doing as far as running programs. And that's what I was good at, was running programs and using the people side and the logic of the program to try to solve the problem. And but the first course I went on was this high-end leadership training course called The Leadership Path. It's by Forrest and Company. It's a fantastic course. And it was exactly at the right time in my career that I took it. And in a nutshell, it was a whole week course, and it went on for a year with mentoring, et cetera, et cetera. And it really taught me that it actually wasn't about how much I could accomplish day to day. It was about how strong a team you can build to work together. Because no matter how good, let's say, or bad I was at delivering a project, I could only accomplish so much. But by learning how to effectively lead or co-lead or be part of a high functioning team, there's just so much more that you could accomplish. And if we bring that back to the beginning, I like getting stuff done quick and efficiently, so there's more time to play or more time to do the other things. So it blew my mind. Honestly, it blew my mind. And then I started reading Chopra, and I watched Tony Robbins videos and all sorts of crazy things. And I became a lifelong learner at that point in time, because before that, I always liked learning. I was always curious, but I didn't work hard in high school. I didn't work hard in university. I was having too much fun. I guess more my mom's side, I guess there. And I was at the right age to really, really adopt a love of lifelong learning. And it started out in leadership. So that is without question, in my opinion, the most important thing I ever did. On a different type of note, I have a coach here at CGI, and he's probably the best coach I've ever worked with. And we worked for quite a while to try to figure out what do I need to work on to be better at my role. And we came up with a phrase, and I still have it on my whiteboard right here in my office. And it says, strategically focused, patiently connected. And he said, you're already, in his opinion, quite strategic. But when I do all the feedback with your direct reports, they say that, you're up and down, you're out of the office. You need to be more patient and spend more time with them. And at around that time, I took up yoga. I took up meditation. This is several years ago. I've been doing it every single day, meditation, 3 times a week, at least yoga. And it's absolutely made a difference. There's no question in my mind to slow down, which has been feedback I've had my whole life, and even more recent professional feedback on patiently connected. Get up in the morning, even if it's just 10 minutes. Sometimes I do it when I'm walking the dog. I just listen to the app. Sometimes I was on the treadmill this morning, or the elliptical this morning, and I was not using an app and just going through a phrase I'd read in a book recently, whatever it is to just calm the mind down. And before big meetings or presentations, just take 3 seconds or 5 seconds to take that deep breath and calm your mind. And then, and that's been huge. And maybe even as big as that leadership training, but time will tell.
Well, and it's interesting because you were mentioning, Chopra, Robbins. These are not the traditional leadership books.
No.
There is another dimension to that, and I think
For
that's
sure.
and that's why I really wanted to do this series as well, because first, we're not unidimensional. So your career is impacted by what happened in your family when you were a kid,
Sure.
what's happening in your life. And you just don't put a new head when you come at the office. So I think what's very interesting with you, and that we did the video with John already last week, and John, like you, is a big music fan.
Yeah.
And music is also his own meditation and in his own way to have a different part of life. And I think that's something you do very well. You mentioned a lot the working and playing. And I think that's what makes you such a great success in your career, is that you don't have just your career.
Yeah, I think you're right. If I just had my career, I'd burn out. I'm wired pretty tight at times. And if I just focused on work, some of the things I think that I'm good at, I would just be too impatient. I would be probably irritable, possibly at times. And then I think the strength that at least I hope I bring to the office or to life is that, being kind to people, listening to them, trying to help them be the best that they can be. And if I was just doing work, I don't think I'd have the energy, the positive energy that's required to create that culture. So I think you're bang on.
I have a great story. So we met when I was working at CIBC, so 5 years ago almost. And I remember I left CIBC, and I'm still involved in that charity, and I'm going to do a shameless plug, Hacker Gal.
Hacker Gal, go Hacker Gal.
Go Hacker Gal, that actually organized hackathon for middle school girls. And I remember we barely knew each other, and you say, oh, why don't you come to the office and we'll chat, and how can I help you? And we spoke about Hacker Gal for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And I think CGI is becoming actually a sponsor.
Yeah, Julie Godin's got involved. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And I left that. I was like, that's weird. That guy is very nice. What's his agenda? How does it come? He's so kind and he's trying to help me. And you have a very refreshing approach to work where you're really putting people first. And you're absolutely right. It's not something usually you see first, in senior executive position, but also in technology. It's usually it's more about getting the job done, and you are a bag of potato. I don't really care, So I think that's something, very specific to you, to your point, the upbringing, your own interest, both met,
Yeah, and I have many people on my team, many peers, with different philosophies and different ways of being successful and getting things done. To your point, this is just the one that works well for me. But I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. And I do enjoy it. And the part I enjoy the most, without question, is the people side of it. The like, it's my mantra. Any of my VPs, if they're going to watch this, and I hope you do, they are going to roll their eyes, because I must say it 20 times a day. At CGI, we have, and it's the same for most companies, I think, or similar. We have our members, which is what we call our employees, our members. We have our clients, and we have our shareholders. We're a publicly traded company. And I believe that way too often, not necessarily here, but definitely, all across the street, senior executive focus way too much on the shareholders. I mean, of course, it's a big part of their job. And of course, share price is important, profitability is important. But the way to get there is what's more important. And if you look at those three stakeholders, if you empower and create a culture where great people can work together, and you're empowering them and training them and getting them coaching and making them feel special, then they're going to be really happy to work here, and they're going to get their good friends to come work here, and they're going to stay here longer. And especially in this market where attrition is crazy. It's the hottest IT market I've ever seen, even hotter than back in 2000. So it's more important than ever is my point. But you have happy people doing well, bringing their friends and enjoying their work, then your clients are going to be happy, because you've got good people doing great work. Well, when your clients are happy, they're going to give you more business, and they're willing to pay higher margins. And when those things are true, of course, the shareholder is going to be happy. So yes, the end result is you need good share price and you need to make profit, but it's the way to get there that's more important. And that's, I say it all the time, and I say it every day, because I firmly, firmly believe it. And it's just, I think that's the mom dad thing, the yin and the yang, the masculine feminine side of it. So, and hopefully, when I'm at my best, I'm doing that well. And I'm not always like, we all have our bad days and we all have these things that we have to deal with. But when I'm at my best, I firmly believe, balancing those two things and creating that culture is what makes it enjoyable for me. And hopefully that's what makes it successful.
Yeah, that's interesting. Your focus on balance, the work with the play, the people, the
exactly.
side, like the finance, but the member as well. I think that's probably a right point to finish our conversation. But before I finish, is there anything I didn't ask, or any advice you want to share? I think we touched on many things, but
sure. Well, first, I'm going to give a shout out to my yoga instructor, because she's the one who's helped me do the balance between all of these things, or at least made it more conscious in me. So Stephanie, thank you. But, advice-wise, if you're not doing what you love, or at least what you really like to do, then you really need to take a step back, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through self-discovery, taking a trip, taking a walk, whatever it is that works for you. And I think we all need to do that regularly. But if you're really not happy in your job, then you need to take that time and then figure out, what do you like to do? What is your personal story? To the same question that you're asking. What is, what I tell people all the time when they come to me for advice, and I do it myself as well. I say, it's easy. Take a piece of graph paper. So this is my dad. He always has graph paper, the square boxes all the time. He's always planning and drawing and making plans, and divide it into 4 and say, what do you like to do? Really like to do? Like, take the time to think about it. And honestly, what do you not like to do? Work and life. And then what are you good at? Honestly, take a hard look at it, and honestly take a hard look at what you're not good at, and go through that exercise, and then take a look at it before you make any huge decision. And then to really understand, because we only have a certain amount of years left, no matter who we are, how young or old we are, to make those choices. And it's easy to say, it's a lot harder to do, and then it's a lot harder to actually execute on it. But I think that's the important work that all of us do. And when we do it well, then we're in a better place and we do a better job. So there you go. That's it. That's Rick Davidson signing off. Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you so much, Rick. That was amazing, and looking forward to maybe another one. We'll do another one. We'll do a follow-up of that. But thank you so much for taking the time. It was amazing.
Nice to see you too. See you later, Peggy.